because what's happening is that the kids, because of the continuity of the experience, not just in terms of the baby, but also in terms of the facilitator who is there to unfold all this, what they're beginning to learn is the incredible variability of how babies express this, but they're also beginning to learn to recognize when that baby comes back to that zone, when that baby is calm. And it's quite interesting how when the baby laughs just here, you have a visceral response, like we feel it. And it's the same when you're in a Roots classroom. If you see, when you see the kid, when you see that baby getting soothed by their mom, what it does is, yes, you're understanding something about the baby. You're seeing what's happening as she regulates the baby. So you're getting this incredibly vivid lesson in self-regulation, in regulating. But you're also internalizing. And that's what I wanted to, that's where I wanted to go tonight. Because I think at the end of the day, the problem that we're seeing over and over, so this is my last thing for tonight, okay? The problem that we're seeing over and over in so many of the programs that have been rolled out in the country are they are above the child's developmental capacities. The child isn't at a level where they can actually process the information that we're trying to convey. So, you know, like we tend as adults to be very metacognitive. So we'll use a word like, we'll say to the child, I've got a 7 or an 8-year-old, I need you to calm down. Well, he doesn't know what the hell that means. What he may do is he may parrot it. He may, I've gone into situations in classrooms where we've been working and have little kids come up to him and say, I need to be calm. And he's bouncing off the walls. But he knows that that's what he was supposed to say. In fact, calmness is it's a very complicated concept. And so I won't go into that now. What I love about Roots is what it does is it personalizes everything for the kid. So as the kid, so the child can learn at a speed that is commensurate with whatever that child's developmental abilities are. And in a typical K or a typical grade 1, so you're working with 6, 7, 8-year-olds, they're going to have tremendously disparate capacities. But because they can process, there's not a clock here. There's not someone who's saying to them, you know, you've got, okay, now it's on to the next part of the curriculum. They get to work at their own speed. And what I found fascinating when I went around with you, with Lisa, was watching how I could spot the kids that really didn't know what the hell's going on. And they get there. And it took them a little bit longer. But the reason why they get there is because the experience, I believe, is, and this is where it'd be fun to do dyadic, the experience is both one of understanding but also experiencing. They themselves are mirroring what they're seeing in the child. So it's an example of, like, you know, one of the big questions on our mind is how do we translate Roots into, now what we need is, you know, like the full-grown tree for teens, because God knows they need it. What they're not getting is, okay, so I'll just tell you real fast because I've exhausted my time here. So what we look at are the 3 elements which we believe are the roots of the roots. And the 3 elements are experiential, emotional, and cognitive, okay? So what does that mean? Well, experiential means when you see the baby go like this, when you go into fight or flight, your muscles are very, very tense. When he relaxes, the tension leaves. All the blood leaves the muscles, right? They're engorged. They go back into that flaccid state. We have a generation of children that are, I want to say, not constantly, but very close to being constantly tense. And tension is incredibly expensive. And it's expensive because it's raising the heart, it's raising breathing, it's raising blood pressure to get you ready. And unfortunately, the system that controls this is the hypothalamus, and it's making them tense even while they're sleeping. Now, we can explain why, and that really is a lecture for another night. A lot of factors that are contributing to this, but we have a generation, the short answer is we have a generation of children that have not been in that state. I want to say this real carefully. a generation of kids who have not been in that state where their muscles are flaccid, where their muscles are loose. And so what we can do is, I can take a class of 7-year-olds and I can say, okay guys, we're all going to sit around now and we're going to focus on our breathing, and you're going to do a chant for 3 minutes. But if you've seen 7-year-olds that are tense try to do this, you will know that this is impossible. You have gone way above their experiential capacity. Roots does not do that. What Roots does is it lets them find their own tempo, and in this experience, their muscles will relax. The next time you go to a class, you watch their bodies, and you'll see it. You will see the tension, and you can see tension, by the way, in a kid's face. And we have various ways of doing it. If you don't know how to do it, just get in touch with my clinic. We have someone who teaches this. But there are signs that you learn how to read that tell you when a child's tension is relaxing. It's easy for you to figure out why they're so tense, right? Think about the things that they're doing in their free time. That's why they're tense. Okay? I don't want to explain, all right? Can you just trust me on this? All right, anyways, the point is that, and we have research that tells us, that Doug Williams did, that tells us that we have an incredibly high level of tension. The second thing is the experience must be positive. It must be enjoyable. It must be fun. Otherwise, they won't do it again. Otherwise, the next time the Roots teacher comes back, you're going to find that half the kids are away with a cold. They come back, they will come back because the experience was, and this is not reflected on enough, how much children genuinely enjoyed this experience. Okay, the third element is the last one, and I thought this is really interesting, and we'll close on it. The third element is cognitive. So we forget that before you get to, like when you hear the word cognitive, you immediately think Phil Zelazo or something like that. But what we're seeing is a bunch of kids that are not at the level of doing executive functions. These are children that aren't aware of what's happening inside their body or around them. This is the heart of Fogel's work. What Alan Fogel has shown is the exercises you can do. He does it with adults, we do it with kids. Exercises to promote basic cognitive awareness. Awareness of when you're hungry. Awareness of when you're tired. Awareness of when you're tense. It's only when you have that core, that base level of awareness, and the technical term is interoception and exteroception. Interoception is awareness of your physiological or your emotional state. Exteroception is being aware of body language or sounds, whatever. It's only when the child has awareness that the kid can now begin to develop executive functions. What Roots is doing is it's working on the core, the base levels, on all 5 of the domains. That's why the program works. So it's the only example I know of a program that works at the child's developmental level, builds in that variability because they're all at different developmental levels, and lets them develop at their own pace.